Melton. You all come and stand on this side here. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. Is everybody?
Can I put this on you?
Yeah.
Just put it in your pocket.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Is everybody ready? Okay.
Put it in your top. That's all right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Attorney Ben Crump, and along with Attorney Carol Powell-Lexing, Attorney Chris O'Neill, we have the honor of representing the family of Nancy Davis. Present here with her is her father of her children, Mr. Shedrick Cole. We have Shedrick Cole Jr., his son, and Miss Asia Cole. We have their baby, Summer. A beautiful family who are having to deal with a most unbeautiful situation. Also, we are honored to have with us a great lawyer who the American Bar Association honored with its annual Pro Bono Lawyer of the Year, Attorney Mark Melton. We also have his wife, Lauren Melton, and their associates from their nonprofit law firm based out of Dallas, Texas, where they fight for people every day who don't have a voice, whether they're dealing with wrongful evictions or they're dealing with challenging the abortion laws in the state of Texas. Very honored to have you all with us. And Arthur Reed, who also hails here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is standing with Nancy Davis. I am here with Miss Nancy Davis on the steps of the capital of the state of Louisiana because what the state legislatures and the state itself is making Miss Nancy Davis endure is inhumane. She said better than I think anybody could have said it after she was told that her baby would likely live only a matter of minutes, up to at most a week after she delivered it, that they could not terminate the pregnancy at the clinic here in Louisiana. And she said it profoundly. They're making me carry my baby just to bury my baby. And as Mr. Cole discussed with me this morning as we were talking, how they are attached to this baby growing inside of them and how unfair this is, that the state will put them through this mental anguish and not let them have a humane medical procedure, to not force her to have to watch her baby die if she had to deliver. Nancy Davis was given a diagnosis that any mother dreads, one that broke her heart. She was told that her baby suffered a rare fetal deformity that left it without a skull and without a chance to survive outside the womb. But thanks to the actions of the Louisiana legislature, Ms. Davis was left without medical care to do what doctors said she needed to be done to end the pregnancy. By imposing themselves between Ms. Davis and her doctors, Louisiana lawmakers inflicted unspeakable pain, emotional damage, and physical risk upon this beautiful mother, this loving mother. They replaced care with confusion, privacy with politics, options with ideology. Ms. Davis was among the first women to be caught in the crosshairs of confusion due to Louisiana's rush to restrict abortion, but she will hardly be the last, America. She will hardly be the last. Because the medical team feared repercussions if they provided Ms. Davis with an abortion, she had to look out of the state for safe, trustworthy care. And her family are very grateful to all of those who donated to her to be able to arrange for travel for her and Mr. Cole to go to another state next week and have the procedure done at this stage. And at this stage, it's a 2-day procedure. And let me be clear about what those repercussions for those doctors are under Louisiana law. It reads, any person who knowingly performs a criminal abortion can be imprisoned at hard labor between 1 and 10 years, Attorney Powell, and or fined $10,000 to $100,000, Attorney Melton. Any person who knowingly performs a criminal abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, which is Ms. Davis' current state, can be imprisoned at hard labor between 1 and 15 years and or be fined $20,000 to $200,000. Now, what doctor is going to take that risk on laws that are vague and ambiguous? What doctor will risk their law license? What doctor will risk their liberty? To the Louisiana legislators who are glibly blaming the hospital for not understanding the language of the law, we say that's hypocrisy. This is exactly the outcome that many believe they sought, to put such a chilling effect on doctors that they would refuse to perform abortions in any and all circumstances. Ms. Davis' story actually shows how vague the laws are. Doctors have to call lawyers in the middle of providing care. Lawmakers have to write letters to the press explaining themselves. And what about the next woman who has a condition that may not be explicitly on the list, or the woman who is in an emergency situation? Are legislators going to issue press statements every time something like that happens? By the time Ms. Davis had the procedure she needs next week, she would have carried this unsustainable pregnancy for an additional month and a half, with the attendant risks and the emotional tolls that this delay has caused on her body and her mental state. It is clear that many lawmakers are creating legislation that they do not understand. They are not medical experts, and they have failed to anticipate or define every situation in which an abortion is necessary, which is why this painful decision is best left to a woman and her doctor. Louisiana law is turning an existing public health crisis into a public health catastrophe. Louisiana already has one of the highest maternal and infant death rates in the country. And Carol, who does this disproportionately affect? Black women, who are 3 times more likely to die in pregnancy than a white woman. This law is not only racist, it's classist. Most people seeking abortions are people of color and are already mothers. In Louisiana, 64% of them are black. Half of the abortion patients live below the federal poverty line, Attorney Melton. And 75% of them are defined as low income. It's appropriate that these laws are called trigger laws because lawmakers jump the gun without doing due diligence, without giving appropriate consideration to those who would be most affected by these laws. Women like Miss Nancy Davis. Today, trigger laws take effect in more than 3 states. We know Texas, Idaho, and Tennessee, to name a few. Make no mistake, people die or deeply harmed when legislators substitute their judgment for doctors. This week we saw some legislators who voted for abortion restrictions in other states admit, Nancy, that they had made a mistake when they saw the unintended consequences of their laws. When they saw you, Nancy, they admitted that they made a mistake. Lawmakers have a responsibility to represent the people, and they do that by creating laws that are clear and protective. Louisiana legislators have failed in this regard. I know there is a lawsuit challenging Louisiana trigger bans, and we fully support that effort. Ms. Davis and her family and the supporters wish for a successful outcome there. But while that case makes its way through the court, we are calling on the governor and the Louisiana legislature to call a special session to address this public health catastrophe. We need the special session sooner rather than later. Governor, Speaker of the House, Senate President, come back from your August vacations and make sure that these vague laws are actually clear so that other women are spared the mental anguish, the mental torment that Miss Nancy Davis is having to endure. April 10th is the date that the Louisiana legislature will be back in session here at this Capitol. Imagine how many women may be affected before they come back into session. How many more Nancy Davises will have to endure the mental anguish and the mental cruelty before the legislators clear up these vague and unambiguous laws? It's not fair. Not to Nancy, not to any woman in the state of Louisiana, not to any woman in the United States of America. Nancy is going to talk to you for a few minutes and tell you about the things she's dealing with. And then we'll try to take some of your questions. But to all of those women out there who've had to endure traumatic challenges like Nancy Davis, please come forward and be heard. You are not alone. There are so many more standing with you than you could ever imagine. And Nancy, we stand here to tell you you are not alone.
Thank you.
We're all standing with you. We're standing with your family.
Thank you.
We are going to make sure that she's never alone. Right now, I give you a very brave young woman, Miss Nancy Davis, who is standing here with her beautiful family. Mr. Cole.
Hello, how y'all doing? Good morning. My name is Nancy Davis, and I am a citizen of the state of Louisiana. 10 weeks into my pregnancy, I found out that my baby had a rare birth defect called a crania. The doctors told me that my baby would die shortly after birth. They told me that I should terminate the pregnancy because of the state of Louisiana's abortion ban. They could not perform the procedure. Basically, they said I had to carry my baby to bury my baby. They seemed confused about the law and afraid of what would happen to them if they performed a criminal abortion according to the law. Now I am preparing to go out of state for this procedure next week. I want you to imagine what it's been like to continue this pregnancy for another 6 weeks after this diagnosis. This is not fair to me, and it should not happen to any other woman. This has truly been an emotional roller coaster. One thing I would like people to understand is very difficult and complex for so many reasons. Being a mother starts when your baby's in the womb, not on the outside. The attachment and everything that comes with it. So as a mother, as a parent, it's my obligation to have my children best interest at heart. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate everything. Thank you.
Would you like to say anything? Thank you, Ms. Davis, for bearing your heart, and Mr. Cole, thank you for being strong to help your family get through this terrible ordeal. Mark, would you like to say anything?
Sure.
And then Carol, please.
Happy to. You know, nationally, this has been a very partisan issue.
Say your phone now.
I'm sorry. My name is Mark Melton from Dallas, Texas, with the Dallas Eviction Advocacy Center. This has been a very partisan issue nationally. However, this is a part of the issue that doesn't have to be a partisan issue. I think Republicans and Democrats alike should be able to agree on at least a minimum standard to keep situations like this from happening. There is absolutely no justification for making a woman carry a fetus all the way through when we know for a fact that it's not viable, and when we know in a lot of circumstances where it could be dangerous to the health of the mother. Surely we can all come together and at least agree on this minimum standard and pass those in the states that don't have them currently.
Thank you, Mark. Attorney Carol Powell, would you like to say?
Sure. I'm Attorney Carol Powell-Lexing, and I just want to say that the state of Louisiana has placed a burden on the back of Ms. Davis and other women who are in medically need of an abortion. It's just so unfair. It has caused trauma. It's horrific, and just places women in a state of an emotional state that ought not to happen if the government hadn't been so intrusive into the lives of women and trying to dictate and take away their individual rights and their rights to take care of their own health care problems. We're faced with this. We wouldn't be here today if the legislator for the state of Louisiana had taken enough time and not rushed to try to ban and restrict individual rights and try to dictate the rights of women. Hopefully, this vague and ambiguous law can be amended and really be repealed. So that's what we are hoping for. Thank you.
And we have one final person who will address you. We want to give us, the family and our legal team want to give a special acknowledgement to Baton Rouge Mayor Pro Tem Cole. We thank you, brother. Very close friend of the family, and to Mr. Reed, who has been with this family. Finally, we're going to, I'm sorry, Mr. Cole's big brother. So thank you so much for your leadership, Mr. Cole. And finally, we will hear from Shedrick Cole, the father. Nancy, you want to come over?
I just want to say that having a front row seat to this situation and seeing the impact that it's had on our family, it's really complex. It's really difficult. You know, from afar, it's very easy to have an opinion about something, but until you're actually in this situation and going through it, you don't understand how complex it is. I also want to say that we must continue to raise consciousness and awareness about situations like this, because it's happening all over the world, and it's so much bigger than us and our family. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. We'll take a few questions. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
The little girl?
Summer.
One little girl. Well, I see a little girl and I saw a little boy.
Okay. So they have 3 children. They have Asia, Cedric Jr., and Summer. Okay.
You want to tell us their ages?
Almost 2, 16, 13.
She's one.
Okay.
Summer's one.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Not with WAFB. Last week when I did the follow-up story to Ms. Davis's situation, Senator Jackson, who authored the abortion bill we're talking about today, clarified that she had been in contact with the Attorney General's office and Women's Hospital and the Department of Health to get everybody on the same page, and come to the realization that there was a misinterpretation of the law, and it was found that her baby's condition falls within the 26th exception of the Department of Health's list. With that being said, why are we seeking the procedure out of state when she can do it legally here?
And we anticipated that question. You know, the Attorney General did contend that the law is clear, to which we say the law is clear as mud. Every woman's situation is different and subject to interpretation. So, of course, medical professionals don't want to risk prison or having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines for making the wrong call. Who would just take somebody's word for it when their liberty is in jeopardy? The Attorney General's letters makes clear that under Louisiana law, a medical provider can refuse a procedure to end a pregnancy unless the mother's life is in danger, forcing her to carry the pregnancy to term, even if the baby cannot survive outside the womb. That is unspeakable cruelty. And it's what the state of Louisiana has inflicted on women, particularly poor black women, who are disproportionately impacted by these types of laws across America, but particularly in the South. And so that's what these medical professionals and this mother was faced with. A vague and unambiguous law. And so she made the decision that was best for her family to say, we're not going to force them to do something they don't want to do. We're going to try to prepare ourselves to go out of state and trust the people who are saying they can perform the termination of the pregnancy safely and without anybody having to risk going to prison. That is something Ms. Davis didn't even want to ask them to do. Hopefully that answered your question. Yes, and I know we got to.
Sarah Klein, Associated Press. I know you said that you're calling on the governor to call a special session and that you guys are watching the abortion ban lawsuit currently happening. What are the next steps you guys are planning on taking?
We're consulting with great lawyers like Carol and Mark and Lauren and others around the country. I mean, we've gotten so many calls since Ms. Davis came forward of people saying they want us to join in trying to prevent this from happening to other women in the future. We're still working on strategy of what that would look like, but our immediate concern right now is Nancy Davis and her predicament that the state of Louisiana has put her in by having this ban of abortions after Roe v. Wade
I know you say
was overturned.
that you've gotten a lot of calls. Do you have any idea how many calls of people in similar situations? And are
Oh,
they solely-
my God, at least a dozen. Yeah, and they all heartbreaking. Any other, last question?
Yes, Paul Braun, Louisiana Public Radio. The trigger law has gotten a lot of attention through this case and through the months since Roe was overturned. But Louisiana has dozens of other laws on the books. Did Women's Hospital give any indication that they were afraid of running afoul of any of those other statutes that exist?
Yeah, and I'll say these two things. We tried to anticipate these questions, our legal team. The legislators who authored the law said the Louisiana Department of Health informed the hospital that it could go forward with the procedure because the pregnancy was medically futile. What is the issue, they asked. Of course they say that now. What happened to Ms. Davis that was brought out in the public eye so profoundly proves the point that these laws are vague and confusing to not just the Women's Center, but to medical facilities all over the country. Look at what has been inflicted on Ms. Davis. First, she receives a heartbreaking prognosis. Then she was refused the procedure that doctors said she needed. Then the legislators and the state bureaucrats scrambled to interpret a law that is clear as mud. By the time she has the procedure that she needs, Ms. Davis will have endured an extra month and a half of anguish due to lawmakers who put their ideology over a woman's best interests. And what about the next woman who has a condition that may not be on the list? Or the woman who is in an emergency situation, because we can all foresee that there are going to be emergency situations that arise. Again, I ask, are legislators going to submit clarifying press statements every time something like this happens? Why is Ms. Davis going out of state for the procedure when it's being clarified that she can have it done here? First of all, the laws are far from being clear. A few legislators have weighed in, but are doctors going to listen when they could go to prison for decades? They could get up to 15 years. And would anybody be surprised if they performed this procedure if one of their colleagues in the legislature thought differently than the ones who have weighed in? Is that not foreseeable? Haven't we seen this play out in Indiana and other states? Maybe some healthcare professionals might be brave enough to risk that, but others surely won't be. Should Ms. Davis interview all of them to see what their risk tolerance is? After everything else she's endured, Ms. Davis has elected with her family to receive treatment where she has trust in the healthcare providers and those in authority in those states who have assured her that it is legal and, more importantly, that it will be done safely. Louisiana has created an environment of confusion and fear for both women and their health care providers. That's why we're calling on the governor and the legislature to call a special session to clear up these vague and unambiguous laws. Ambiguous laws. Anybody else? If there's nothing else, we will keep you updated. Ms. Davis, okay. Thank you all. Unambiguous laws. I said ambiguous.
Yeah.
I said ambiguous.
One word without
And I said ambiguous laws. We want them to be unambiguous. At the Martin Luther King Center.
Martin Luther King 4,000.
We're going to have a sit-down interview with
Jerry Johnson.
Okay.
In the Jerry Johnson room.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry Johnson?
So when I give your nod, you don't even remember it's me. You can't acknowledge.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Where we going now? What's next? That's Young Avenue?
Yes, ma'am.
Right now?
Yes.
What's the street? What's the center? It's a
Martin Luther King.
the Martin Luther King Center.
Community Center. on Gresham.
I do. Oh, thank you. I do. I'll meet you there.
Ask Mom what she said. Oh, you don't want to give Mom a son. Oh, you want to give me mine. I'll give you my trust. Yeah, I think I'm there.
The arranged interviews are going to take place at our sit-down location. Mr. Reed knows where that's at.
What's up? Y'all gotta take your serious.
Yeah, because I don't have a knife on me. You got teeth, right? I'm just saving. Well, should have brought my pocket knife.
Make sure nobody falls to the ground.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to watch.
Yeah.
I had a Leatherman, but I lost it in the wreck.
You were a wreck?
A year ago.
I was too.
Almost killed.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
That's why you can't trust him in the video. Clearly wasn't Nathan's drive.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was absolutely you.
Why
that
are all
was driving.
journalists horrible drivers? That's what they used to do.
He did try to kill me.
When
Watch
I was
this,
out
watch
in
this.
Elizabeth was the news director.
Hang on.
Used to send me out to different places and try to get me killed, you know.
Here we go. LN, LRN, that's
Yeah, I need
you.
to get the rest of it.
Yep, we're going to get there.
This close to getting away with it.
There we go. Now we got him.
All the photos tried to get me killed, but the news director
Where's
was
channel 2? Here you go.
I think that's mine.
I'll pick it up for you, Marcel. Don't bend down, Marcel.
We're going to Gresham. We're going to Gresham Community Center. 4,000.
Sorry to bother you guys. Where is the sit-down location?
No, we're going to go, man. We're going over to the center. If you want to do interviews, you can do them over there.
Right, where are they? Where is it?
4,000.
Yeah,
4,000 Gus Young and the Jerry Johnson.
4,000 Gus Young?
4,000 Gus Young.
Thank you.
Yep, about 10 minutes away. 4,000 Gus Young.